The House take note of Christmas felicitations. I now call the member for Baulkham Hills.
Thank you, Mr Assistant Speaker. Mr Assistant Speaker, any MP that stands up here to give Christmas felicitations in the fourth Christmas of a term with not having the thought it could be a valedictory speech is very arrogant. So, well, we don't take, I note the interjection from the member for Balmain. I certainly don't take my electorate for granted, and for that reason I'd be happy to make these opening remarks. Final remarks of the Parliament, the 55th Parliament. Mr Assistant Speaker, of course, I have to thank Rachel Taylor, my PA, who I've had for over 10 years. She's been a PA with me during the private sector years, industry associations, and of course the 4 years I've been a Member of Parliament. To Keith Topolsky, known to many members of this House, Michelle Byrne and Jackie Walker, who have been in my office on and off, and of course Sam Stone, who's been here in the parliamentary office helping me on parliamentary days. Mr Acting Speaker, as the Premier's Parliamentary Secretary, I've had to work with his staff, but nobody has been more admirable and helpful than Gail Mitchell in the Premier's office, who's assisted me in my duties as Parliamentary Secretary. One of my roles with the Premier is, of course, looking after the centenary of Anzac, and I have to thank General Ken Gillespie, who's the Chair of the New South Wales Centenary of Anzac Advisory Council, for his support of the year. And thank, of course, the Office of Veterans Affairs, who have helped me as well as provided some guidance. Mr Acting Speaker, I won't remember the 55th Parliament or my first term in Parliament as fondly as others have. It will be marred for me as the time that I had to nurse my wife through breast cancer. But I'm happy to report that she is well and truly on her way to recovery. But I also have to note the friendship and support of some of my colleagues, particularly the Premier, particularly the member for Lane Cove, the member for Castle Hill and the member for Hawkesbury, the member in the other house, Natasha McLaren, and all those who assisted us through this terrible time, and know that they celebrate with me Nicole's return to good health. Can I thank the Leader of the Opposition, who I've worked for two opposition leaders, Mr Acting Speaker, and I must say that John Robinson has been very supportive of the centenary of Anzac commemorations. I don't think that a month has gone by when John and I haven't stood next to each other at a commemoration remembering the military, and I think he's got a genuine interest in these upcoming commemorations. I hope that he takes an interest in them in one way or another over the course of the next 4 years. Politics is combative, and that's why I want to make a quick remark about another Christmas truce, and that was, of course, the Christmas truce of 1914. We're approaching the 100th anniversary of the Christmas truce, the World War I Christmas truce, and it was an unofficial cessation of hostilities on the Western Front on Christmas Day in 1914, 100 years ago next month. Soldiers from both sides, in some places formally, in other places informally, agreed to cease fire, and they celebrated Christmas. They celebrated the birth of the Christ and everything that commemorates. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle described the Christmas truce as, quote, one human episode amid all the atrocities that have stained the memory of war. The truce was a soldier's truce as it came out of respect for a season, a shared humanity, and not sanctioned by the commanding officers, but shows that Christian men are decent and have an interest in preserving peace. Dr Frederick Chandler, a medical officer in the Royal Army Medical Corps attached to the 2nd Battalion of the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, described the truce to his sister. And he said, quote, this morning it was still freezing hard, but a heavy mist was over everything. In the afternoon, all firing ceased about our lines. An extraordinary thing occurred. Our men and the Germans got out of the trenches and met each other and started chatting. The Germans brought a barrel of beer over to our regiment. One could walk around with safety. It was a delicious feeling, I can tell you. There was still sniping going on to our right, but later it stopped, and about 6 p.m. it was all quiet. Perfectly delicious. I've not heard a quiet 5 minutes for nearly 2 months, but at 9 p.m. singing had begun and there was still no firing. You can imagine how sick one gets to the crack of rifles and the beastly singing noise of the bullets. I swear they are worse than any shells. The truce, as we know, did not last. Unfortunately, fighting continued until the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. But Sergeant Blundell of the 1st Bedfordshire Regiment described it as this: they asked not us to fire that day and said that they would not, and no firing was done until the next day, and then we were fighting for all we were worth. unquote. The war got much darker and more gruesome over the following 12 months, and the truce did not occur again, but it reminds us of the genuine goodness of humanity, the pure heart of the Christian man, the soldier who defends our virtues. I thank our soldiers abroad for service this Christmas. I know that every member of this chamber has their thoughts with them, and I wish everybody a safe Christmas, a prosperous New Year, and hopefully those that are overseas will return home.